This video is brought to you by these YouTube members. Thank you guys so much for your continued support. Hello everyone and welcome to the top 10 holos on Bleach Brave Souls, a video that I thought I had made recently, but apparently not. Now the holo affiliation is not exactly common, as only certain characters can have them, and even then only some variants of those characters. But even then we've got plenty of great holo characters, so let's go ahead and get started. As always, keep in mind this is the internet and opinions will vary.
見せてやるぜ俺の力のすべてをこの一振りで型をつける月牙転生
Now at number 10 is the second anniversary version of Ichigo, who has a really high SP, frenzy, and great range on his strong attacks, especially after being resurrected, since now he has Havoc. In addition to that Havoc, he also got a strong attack recharge link and Berserker at 20%, meaning now he deals more damage, and he can do it more frequently. His strong attacks consist of a 3-shot strong attack 1, a lunge move strong attack 2, and a charge move strong attack 3, that when fully charged becomes beyond full screen, and when not charged is actually pretty close to full screen, thanks to him having Havoc now, meaning that not charging this is actually a viable option if you want to get through things a little faster, though of course charging it does mean double damage. This Ichigo also has a respectable attack for a high SP character and bruiser at 40%, meaning his normal attacks deal decent damage, though he is a ranged character and his normal attacks do not pierce, so taking that route might be a little bit slower. Finally, this Ichigo also has a double sprinter, making it easier for him to dodge specials and clear areas faster. Now personally, I think that some of the characters in the honorable mentions you'll see in this list are actually more fun than this character and can complete quests a lot faster. However, this Ichigo outdamages them all, is a better link, and in my opinion a bit more versatile, depending on what you want to do.
メイドの土産に見せてやるよ俺の前にひれ伏しりゃ
Next up we have the Cacao Society version of White, which, by the way, K-Lab, big fan of the White seasonal variants, keep those up. This version of White has a really high SP as well as Frenzy. He can also inflict debilitating weakening on all of his attacks, and he's got a strong attack damage link of 25%, which, by the way, that Ichigo also has, I forgot to mention it, whoops. Now this White is actually very likely to inflict the weakening, thanks to 2 of his strong attacks. Strong Attack 1 is a pushback move that hits multiple times, as well as knocks the enemies back, which is great for a ranged character, and his Strong Attack 2 is a hybrid vortex move that gathers enemies in one spot before pushing them back. This move in particular is especially likely to inflict the weakening, because of just how many times it hits. It's also really good for crowd control, and deals some pretty decent damage. However, most of your damage is gonna come from that Strong Attack 3. Like the Ichigo before him, it's also a charge move that doubles in strength when fully charged. His doesn't exactly get to full screen, but it still has really decent range when fully charged, and also deals massive damage, especially if the enemies are weakened, which is incredibly likely. Now in addition to being able to deal weakening, he's also completely immune to it. Honestly, this character does 3 things and he does them really well. Crowd control, inflict weakening, and heavy damage. And they're the main reason I ended up putting him on this list.
そろそろ私の冷圧に耐えられなくなってきた頃か
Up next we have the third fusion version, Ryzen, who also has a really high SP as well as frenzy and can inflict debilitating weakening on all of his attacks. Something that you're gonna notice is a very common trait here. Holos just seem to love to inflict weakening, and I'm not complaining because that is the best status ailment. Now this Ryzen's got some pretty great strong attacks. He's got a full screen strong attack 3, a crawling vortex move strong attack 2 that's perfect for pushing enemies back and inflicting status ailments since it hits so many times, and a beam shot strong attack 1, which I bring up beam shots so many times in this channel, just because at this point we have a lot of characters with beam shots for strong attacks, but they really are great strong attacks, especially when given to a character at strong attack 1. They stretch across the room, deal non-watered down solid strong attack damage, and they're quick to activate. Honestly, they're perfect. And the fact that it comes back so frequently means that they're some of the best strong attacks in the game. I would honestly say they're broken, but they're kinda common, and it's hard to call something so common broken. Anyway, back to the Aizen. He's actually got a very unique normal attack, despite not having a high attack or a high bruiser, as he's got 2 finishing attacks for his normal attack string, and each one splits off into 3 directions, each dealing 120% magnification damage. To those who are new to the game, I understand if that makes no sense. So very basically, the last 2 attacks on his normal attack string, if you hit an enemy at close range, would be the equivalent of hitting them like 6 times with the final normal attack of a regular character, which is kinda nuts, and something that only this character has if I'm not mistaken. If nothing else, it's really good for inflicting a status ailment. Finally, because I'm running this character a little long, he's also completely immune to being frozen. Poor foolish Martin, you think you ran this Aizen a little long. Just you wait.
見てて超スーパーウルトラマシロフラッシュなんだよこれ
Next up we have the Machine Society version of Mashiro, who is just a very interesting character. And not just for her comedic gameplay. Mashiro has a really high SP as well as Frenzy. She's also got a strong attack damage link of 20%, a strong attack recharge ability, and an increased mine droplet drop ability, which doesn't really help her in combat, but whatever. Now continuing the trend, this Mashiro can also inflict debilitating weakening with all of her attacks, and she's also very likely to do so. Her strong attack 1 hits an insane amount of times and it's very likely to inflict weakening. Her strong attack 2 is also incredibly likely because it's a hybrid vortex move similar to White Ichigo's that gathers enemies in one spot before pushing them back. Then we have our strong attack 3 that's just a standard full screen, though it is beyond full screen because she does have Havoc at 20, increasing the range on all of these strong attacks. Now in addition to that Havoc, this character also has Guard Break, meaning that all these attacks will deal maximum damage because they don't have to pierce through enemies. It also means her normal attack is a viable option, though her attack stat isn't that high and she only has a plus 20 bruiser, but it is an incredibly fast attack. And because of the Guard Break, you don't actually have to worry about having a strong attack saved up. All in all, she's a solid character. Maybe not the fastest character in the game, but definitely one to take if you want to inflict weakening, or grind up mine droplets.
覚悟しやよ地獄掃除逃がしはせんで
Next on the list, we have the Spirit Society version of Lisa, who's a very interesting character. She's got a really high SP as well as Frenzy and can inflict debilitating weakening on 2 of her strong attacks and debilitating freeze on 1 of her strong attacks, her normal attack, and her special. I love characters that can do multiple things, especially since you're actually given a decent amount of control over what you want to inflict. That strong attack 2 is a crawling vortex move, so it's very likely to inflict weakening if you want to go that route. On the other hand, you have a special that's guaranteed to inflict freeze, and a strong attack 1 that's spammable, that can also inflict freeze. Not to mention it's a beam shot move, and I already talked about how great those were. Plus she's got Havoc, making it even better since it almost reaches the range of a full screen, and it makes her strong attack 3 beyond full screen. And you can spam all of them since she has a strong attack recharge link. She's also got Berserker at 20%, and she's got an ability that increases the amount of damage Heart Soul Reapers deal to status ailment affected enemies, which is a very interesting ability I'm not sure anyone else has yet, because it not only affects her, it affects all Heart Soul Reapers, whether or not they can inflict status ailments. It's just if an enemy is status ailment and your Heart Soul Reaper, bam, you deal more damage. Topping things off, she's also a potion character, so there's all the benefits of that. It was honestly a toss-up between her and Mashiro, but Lisa has the superior strong attack 1, variety for status elements, as well as the potential to deal more damage not just from her, but from her teammates.
こっから先は進めば地獄戻るも地獄の底が視野
Next up is one of 2 Xinjis that I didn't summon yesterday. Spoiler if you haven't seen the ticket video. The Spirit Society version of Xinji. This Xinji has a really high SP as well as Frenzy. He's also got the ability to inflict... What? Not debilitating weakening? That's right, he's one of very few characters on this list who can't inflict debilitating weakening. Instead, he can inflict debilitating paralysis. And he does it extremely well. All of his attacks can inflict it, and his strong attack 1 and 2 have a very high chance of inflicting it, since his strong attack 1 hits a large number of times, and his strong attack 2 is a hybrid vortex move that gathers enemies in one spot before pushing them back. He's also got Havoc, which increases the range on these strong attacks and makes his strong attack 3 beyond full screen. In addition to that, he can also inflict paralysis by just existing. And for those of you new to the game, you didn't hear me incorrectly, if he's on the field, he can inflict paralysis just by being there, thanks to the innate skill Immobilizer, that randomly inflicts paralysis to enemies at any given time. This comes in handy particularly for damage, since he has an ability that increases the amount of damage he deals to paralyzed enemies by 20%, combining really well with his Frenzy and Berserker at 20%. Xinji also has Guard Break, meaning all of his attacks deal the maximum amount of damage, though I'm fairly certain enemies can't guard when they're paralyzed anyway, so you can just wait. They'll eventually be paralyzed, though I guess Guard Break is faster. Xinji is also able to read Soul Reaper dodges, and he's got a boosted strong attack recharge link of 14%. Honestly, he's a solid character, though maybe a bit slow, since his strong attack 1, his most common strong attack, sacrifices power for range and the amount of times it hits. Still, he's a great character and a very fun one as well.
こんなもんじゃねえここからだろ楽しくなるのはよ
Next up, we have the Spirit Society version of White Ichigo. Again, more seasonal White Ichigo. Actually, more seasonal Ichigo in general. It's weird that we have the exact same number of 5-star White Ichigo seasonals as we do regular ones. Anyway, this character has a really high attack, something I don't think we've seen yet in this video, as well as a normal attack damage link, flurry, and a bruiser at 30%. In addition to that, he can also inflict debilitating weakening, of course, on all of his attacks, and he will deal 20% more damage to any enemy that is weakened. He's actually very likely to inflict it, even though he's not a strong attacking character. This is because his strong attack 2 is a vortex move that surrounds him. These hit multiple times, even if you don't have frenzy, and it's very likely to inflict the weakening. And while this character is a normal attacking character, he does have a strong attack recharge ability, allowing him to use his attack more frequently. Honestly, he's got very useful strong attacks. I mean, his beam shot strong attack 1 is the range of a full screen, and he's got a full screen strong attack 3. Plus he's got berserker at 40, 60 if they're weakened. You got options for damage is what I'm saying. Plus he can't really be stopped thanks to his poise, and it makes him extra good in PvP, autoing in PvE, and annoying to deal with in arena mode. On top of all this, he's also got guard break, so he's extra good in PvE, and his special, in addition to dealing weakening, also debuffs the enemies, drastically lowering their defense, which was already lowered thanks to the weakening, meaning that this Ichigo can deal a significant amount of damage after his special. I do kind of wish they would have given him long reach just because it would have made him a little bit better, but he does move around a lot with his normal attack string, so it kind of makes up for it. Also, he's completely immune to being burnt, making him even better for autoing.
ほんならそろそろ奇跡の時間や。ひっくり返したるわ。挽回。坂島横島八方塞がり。
Next up, we have the Can't Figure Your Own World version of Xinji, who has a really high SP as well as Frenzy. He's also got Berserker at 20%, and an ability that increases the strong attack damage from power captains by 20%, essentially giving him a plus 40 Berserker, which, oddly enough, for as many as we have in the game, he's the first one on this list. He can also inflict debilitating confusion on all of his attacks, and while, yeah, confusion isn't exactly the best status helmet, it does actually come in handy for him, because he can inflict 40% more damage across the board on confused enemies, meaning that if an enemy is confused, he essentially does 80% more strong attack damage before frenzy, and 60% more normal attack damage since he already has a bruiser at 20. Now in addition to that high damage potential, he's also got an amazing kit, with a beam shot strong attack 1, a strong attack 2 that encompasses a really large area in front of him, and a strong attack 3 that's beyond full screen, thanks to him having Havoc at 20. He's also got a strong attack recharge link, allowing him to spam these attacks, and it makes him one of the fastest characters, since he can spam attacks with such great range, and doesn't ever really have to get close to the enemies. I'm a very big fan of Xinji as a character, so I'm really glad they didn't drop the ball on this one.
よく見とけ。これが俺の力だ。
Next up, we have the Artworks version of Ichigo. Now this guy is absolutely insane, and hopefully this one doesn't go as long as last week's when I talked about him. He's got the second highest SP in the game, as well as Frenzy and Berserker at 60%. He's also got Havoc at 20, increasing the range of his strong attacks that already had great range, and a strong attack recharge link of 14%. He can also inflict debilitating weakening on all of his attacks, and he's very likely to do so on his strong attack 1, which is a hybrid vortex beam shot move that hits multiple times, and because it's his strong attack 1, he's able to spam it, so he's pretty likely to inflict weakening. His strong attack 2 is very near full screen and blast everything in front of him, and his strong attack 3 is beyond full screen. This Ichigo also has poise, meaning these attacks cannot be interrupted, and it actually makes his normal attack viable, since while he doesn't have the highest attack, it's still relatively decent, and has great range for someone who doesn't have long reach. This Ichigo also has Marauder, which is essentially nullify melee resistance and guard break in one, and it makes him that much more of a faster character, because every attack will do the damage it's supposed to, and you won't ever have to wait for a strong attack to come back in order to use your normal attack effectively. This version of Ichigo also has Bombardment, meaning his special hits extra hard, and he's got Sprinter at 2, meaning he can flash step an extra time. In addition to that, he's also got Long Stride, so these flash steps are extra effective, and it makes him one of the fastest characters in the game, since not only can he dodge specials with these, but he can also get from one part of the map to the other, something that's not just great in PvE, but also arena mode. Speaking of which, when in arena mode, he also has last ditch survival, meaning he comes back after being down once. This Ichigo is also completely immune to all status elements, and he's got 2 killers, a Soul Reaper killer, which is the best killer in the game, and a no affiliation killer, which comes up often now. It is honestly super tempting to put him at number 1, since he is extremely good and extremely versatile. But Caleb does like to bring out the big guns for anniversary, so...
々に制限なく力を出せてる感じだ。
とどめさしてしまいや。
落ちてゆくがいい。惑い乱れて砕け散れ。
Now finally at number 1, we have the 6th anniversary version of Ryzen, which at this point, who didn't see that coming? I mean, it was either going to be Ichigo or him at number 1, and Ichigo got number 2, so here we are. Now where to even begin with this guy? He's got the highest SP in the game, and he's also got Frenzy at 2, meaning that each of his strong attack hits are now tripled. As of this recording, he is the only character in the game to have this, and who knows when the next time we'll see it will be. Could be next week for round 2, could be next year, who knows. What we do know is that this ability is broken because it not only affects how much damage he deals, since each multiplier is essentially applied 3 times, but it also affects how often he inflicts a status element, or I guess 2 status elements, since he can inflict 2 of them with each attack. And they're arguably the 2 best ones to inflict right now. He can inflict Weakening, which was already the best, and the newest status element, Drain, which heals him anytime an enemy is affected by it. This is especially good for him because he has an ability that inflicts the amount of damage he deals at full health by 20%. And like I said, any multiplier is applied 3 times thanks to the Frenzy being at 2. And we haven't even gotten to his strong attacks yet, which are absolutely insane. He's got Havoc at 20, so the range of them increases, and it means his Beam Shot Strong Attack 1 now has the range of beyond full screen. That's not to say it's a full screen move, it just has the range of one. It also hits each enemy 9 times, so it's very likely to inflict weakening. Then we have a Strong Attack 3, which was full screen and now is beyond full screen, and it hits 12 times. And then we have a Strong Attack 2. Good old Strong Attack 2. Now last year we got Byakuya, whose Seeking Vortex Strong Attack 2 was universally loved. So then K-Lab was like, why not make it way better? And that's what they did here. Aizen's Strong Attack 2 is also a Seeking Vortex, only his hit triple times because of Frenzy being at 2. This means that this attack hits 78 times, and the initial hit is near full screen. Each of these attacks have a chance to inflict a status element, and you can bet they're gonna do it, because again, 78 times. Not to mention this attack is basically a heal move for Aizen since he has Drain, but unlike regular heal moves that come back after 30 seconds, with a full Strong Attack recharge build, this attack will come back after 7. And there's no avoiding this attack either, because he has Sharpshooter, which, like Marauder, is essentially a guard break and nullify range resistance in one. You can't really hide from him either because he has the ability to hit hidden enemies, which is something you normally get with an accessory, but this frees up that accessory slot. This Aizen also has 2 killers of Captain and Soul Reaper, and like I said before many times, Soul Reaper is the best killer in the game. The reason that is because there are 2 different kinds of fodder Soul Reaper enemies, the regular kind and the rogue Zanpakuto kind, meaning it's very likely they're going to be the fodder enemy. On top of that, most of the characters in this game are Soul Reapers, because, well, they're the good guys. This means that most of the bosses you'll end up facing are also Soul Reapers, which brings me to the next ability, because he wasn't broken enough. They also gave him the ability to dodge Soul Reaper damage. This means that he has a 50% chance to just completely ignore Soul Reaper damage. Why? This wasn't necessary. I mean, I'm not complaining, it's great, but he already had 2 status elements, Frenzy at 2, and a bunch of other stuff that made him really broken. Like I said, I'm not complaining, I have this character. It's just you would think they would save a little bit for someone else, you know? Now finally, and this is the least impressive thing about this character, he's immune to being paralyzed. Which I guess is kind of useful because Soul Reaper fodder enemies love to paralyze, so I guess they were just going for an anti-Soul Reaper theme here, and they absolutely nailed it. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, hit like and subscribe to the channel, and stay tuned for some more top 10 lists.